I'd like to call this meeting of the Madison Selectmen to order on Monday, May 10th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Join me in saluting the flag. Move. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're worse than a congregation having to do the Lord's Prayer.
No kidding, I didn't get started there. All right, let the record show all selectmen are present. Consent agenda warrant number 36, 426, 2021, number 37, 426, 2021, payroll register number 17, 429, 2021, and number 18 at 5/6, 2021.
Make a motion to accept the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the warrant and payroll register as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Application for catering alcohol permit.
Okay, so there's a couple of these coming down the line here. The first one is from Cancun Mexican Restaurant. They're going to be catering an event at Fairy Tale Gardens out in East Madison on May the 29th. So they need to get the state's permission to have a food and alcohol permit, and that's what you are approving tonight if you want to do so.
All right, so look at a motion to approve. I have a motion. We have a motion and a second to approve the Cancun Restaurant catering alcohol permit for the Fairy Tale Gardens. Do we have a date on that?
29th of May.
May 29th, 2021. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. A liquor license application for Somerset Abbey.
So this is Somerset Abbey's yearly liquor license, and there are two spots that you'll be signing on the assumption you approve it. This first one that says sign here, this is for their indoor liquor license. And then on the back page, that is for their outdoor tent liquor sales. So if you approve that, you can approve both. And I'll get to Speedy Gonzalez here to sign. So.
All right, so looking for a motion and a second to approve Somerset Abbey's liquor license application.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve a liquor license for Somerset Abbey for inside and outside. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. And we're looking for a public hearing. I guess we're opening a public hearing for special amusement permit for Somerset Abbey. The public hearing is open at 6:02.
If you have not done one of these before, any establishment that has a liquor license but also has live music and dancing, by state law and by our ordinance, they're required to have a special amusement permit. So Somerset Abbey does all of that, so the bylaws or the ordinances require a public hearing. If after the public hearing there's no objections, you can make a motion to pass their special amusement permit, and it'll run the same time as their liquor license for the next year.
All right, anyone have any comments for the Somerset Abbey? Any comments? And I'll do one more time. Any comments? No comments. We'll let the public hearing close at 6:03. And we'll look for a motion.
Motion approved. Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve a special amusement permit for Somerset Abbey for 2021. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Let's see, acceptance of the meeting minutes from April 26, 2021.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for that date. I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of April 26, 2021. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. I believe Mr. Moody is an abstention. Old business, Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
Mr. Gopian?
None. I'm all
What?
set.
7. Okay. Items of communication, Mr. Town Manager?
Just a point of order, Mr. Moody was at the last meeting, so he didn't need to abstain from the minutes.
Well, that wasn't the.
That was the previous one.
Oh, I get them mixed up. We took
care.
Sorry, we're 5-0 now.
You're accusing me again, aren't you?
No, makes sense. You didn't even remember, that's the worst part.
Had you read those minutes, you would have seen that
I read the good parts.
Mr. Moody abstained. All right. Items of communication, a couple things here. We've been doing some work to maybe fill some seats on the Budget Advisory Committee. We've had 4 members that have asked not to serve anymore, and most of them were longtime folks, and we appreciated their service. So that gives us 4 openings. I've got a few candidates in mind, but if you come across anybody you think would be a good candidate for the Budget Advisory Committee, let me know or let them know to contact me. We need to have that filled by the first meeting after town meeting in June. You've probably heard a lot about the American Rescue Plan, that the money is coming from the feds to the state, to the towns. This week they're supposed to start that process, and the state will handle all of the disbursements of cash to all towns under 50,000, so that's most of the towns in Maine. We anticipate to get 2 payments of $230,000 this year and next. There's still a lot of details to be worked out about how you can spend that money, where you can put it. What we've discussed right now at the town office is to kind of create a special separate budget in our economic development budget where we can plug in that money. So you'll probably see more of that in the coming weeks. We have formally closed and collected all the money owed for 1162 Lakewood Road. The tenant that was there has moved out. We haven't had any trouble from the previous owner. And the new owners who live 2 doors down, they've got an excavator on site and a 40-yard container, and they're starting to clean that spot up. Summit Natural Gas continues their work. They've completed their work down Jones Street. Now they're working on Old Point Avenue. I met with a salesperson from Summit Natural Gas at the library last week. We got a quote to convert the 40-year-old boiler in the library to a natural gas boiler, and that quote was $5,500. And Summit Gas will cover all of that with rebates. So we would pay the money out to get hooked up to natural gas, apply for a rebate, and get the money back. So it seems like a pretty good deal for the library to move forward and be on natural gas. A couple of other notices from the utilities. Madison Electric has sent a notice to their customers talking about spraying and cutting this year. And if you have property adjacent to the power lines for MEW and you don't want spraying on your property, it's on you to contact the state and mark it off and say you don't want to be sprayed on your property. And then the Water District is having a public hearing on May 20th. That's next Thursday. It'll be here in this building, in this room. The Water District is taking any input on their rates for the coming year, which will be a 3% increase. If you remember, 2 years ago, they did a lot of work to repair the line coming out of Hancock Pond, and to do that, they had to have a 10% rate increase, and they chose to do a 3 and a 3 and a 3. So this is the second year of those 3% rate increases. That public hearing is at 5 o'clock on Thursday.
Think we're gonna raise it 10%?
They needed to raise it 10% 2 years ago. And instead of doing one 10% rate, they did a 3-3-3.
It's not.
I'm sure they'll figure out another percent somewhere. But opening court's at 4%, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, number 1, department head reports. We have the police that was sent to us today. Anybody have any questions on that? Do we have a fire?
We do. My apologies. We do have a fire report. And just wanted to note that the rescue vehicle that was purchased from Winslow is in service and it is in the process of being lettered. And it's ready to go right now. So they did all that they needed to do to put the cascade system in it, and I'm very, very, very pleased with it.
Are we moving that other vehicle back over to Anson?
I believe that Don and George Demchak are going to work out the details. Right now, it's parked in the far parking spot at the town office. I believe that's the plan.
Okay. And so we have fire, and we have the road commissioner is here. We have a report from him already. So,
well, just a couple updates to start. Sweeping, the sweeper that we normally rent has lost the engine in it, and the contractor's not going to be fixing it, so I had to do a last minute scramble to get a sweeping operation in here, and he'll be here within 2 weeks. He said he'd agreed to come over and sweep the town, so he'll be here in 2 weeks. So that goes along with the striping after the sweeping is done. And in speaking with the contractor of the striping, he can't get any paint, nobody can get any paint. So he says that's gonna be uncertain when he's gonna be able to get here to paint the sidewalks and the parking stalls on Main Street. So if any questions are asked, that's what's taking place. In front of you is, I handed out a summer project highway list of projects that need to be done before any paving's done and all the other stuff. In your packet, there's some pictures of some sidewalks that we've had a question on, to either repair them or rip them up, one of the two. As a highway department, as it stands right now, we don't have any time left in the summer to tear them up or fix them. The whole month of June, we're basically down to a 2-man crew, because most of the guys take their vacation and their sick time off, because they work all winter and don't take any time off during the winter. So that leaves us short-handed for most of the month of June. I guess if there was my recommendation to leave those sidewalks the way they are for now, or I got some prices to tear some of them up from 2 local contractors, and the ones on Gray Street, Middle Street, and Halton Street will cost roughly between $6,000 and $7,000 a piece to tear up, and to rebuild those will cost anywhere from $17,000 to $20,000 a piece. My recommendation is to leave them the way they are, and I would rather put that money into sidewalks that are more readily used, such as Main Street, Old Point Avenue, Madison Avenue. We're going to be tearing up Madison Avenue from Main Street to Bean Street, as you see on the projected list. So that's going to take, I believe, $22,000 to do that. And we also have the sidewalk on Bean Street from Madison Avenue to Maple Street to rebuild and construct. So those are our sidewalk projects for this year.
The reason I asked the road commissioner to talk about these sidewalks is I got a call last week from a taxpayer that asked specifically about these side streets, Middle, Houghton, and Gray. And as you can see in the pictures there, or if you've walked up and down, they've been basically allowed to just go back into the ground. The one on Houghton Street, you can barely see from Weston Avenue. And they asked, what does the town want to do with them? And I said, well, I'll bring it to the board and have the road commissioner make a recommendation. So what's the consensus of the board? What are your thoughts? Do you want to put it on a plan to rebuild these? Keep in mind that adds to the maintenance and the cost and the plowing of it. Or do you want to put it on a plan to, as the road crew gets time, to just have them taken up?
Mr. Mooney, I don't think that those 3 streets get a lot of walking traffic on those streets. If they did, the grass wouldn't even be showing around what's left there. And I guess I have to agree with the road commissioner. We've got other projects that are more priority than these here. I think eventually just have him pull it up, grass it in. As far as that's my opinion.
I don't disagree with you, but I do think these streets there's a lot of foot traffic on these streets, especially, there's a lot of it there. So, if we're gonna, I guess the question is, what is the liability if we just leave it like it is? Do we work at getting it to grass and like we did on Madison Avenue?
I know what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, but I'll bet you 2 of every 3 people that walk down that street, if there was a sidewalk, would walk on the street because of the vehicle traffic. That's just my opinion.
And maybe, but, I mean, I think that if somebody does walk on this though and they fall, are we liable for that?
The Maine Tort Claims Act
No.
doesn't allow a municipality to be sued for a crack in the sidewalk or broken sidewalk. Obviously, if there are major potholes or problems, you have to identify them. I don't know if this would qualify for that, because essentially this is a footpath at this point.
Maybe. So go.
Do you plow these in wintertime?
No, we don't, and that's the other problem of rebuilding those. If there need to be winter maintenance on them, it will not get done because we already have enough sidewalks to plow with our sidewalk machine. I mean, look at Park Street, for example, we don't plow that, and that's a fairly decent sidewalk. We just don't have time during the course of the storm and or the course of the winter to plow them. So, and we're already doing almost 7 miles of sidewalk of plowing, and that's just enough for one machine.
So it just gets a big bank over the wintertime?
It does, correct.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about in the sidewalks like this and not plowing is you're making the people walk in the road. And in the wintertime, when you get both sides of the road with the banks and stuff, you're lucky if you get one car to a little more than 3 people walking side by side in 2 cars.
Well, take for example down Old Point. You go down Old Point when school's getting in and out. How many kids walk down the opposite side of the road of the sidewalk?
Right.
And there's plenty of room to walk on the sidewalk in the banks.
One of the reasons I looked at this map is just to help myself get oriented here to see, do you have a pathway to the elementary school or to the junior high? And you do on enough of those side streets have good established sidewalks that you can get over from Weston to Madison and up to the elementary school or down Main Street and over to the junior high school.
And as a matter of fact, when we looked at redoing Heald Street here a few years ago, we were going to omit that sidewalk altogether and just put a 4-foot paved shoulder up that street, because we sat there before school and after school one day and watched the kids just walk right up the middle of the street and on the shoulder of the road. So, is it really worth the money to put a curb and a sidewalk on that length of street for all the kids to walk to the junior high?
What we're looking at is when you get time, clean this up. Is that what you want to have?
Well, I can do whatever you guys wish. Like, we can either, when we get a halftime, which it could possibly be later in the fall, it could possibly be next spring, it may not happen. That's why I gotten some quotes from some contractors. If you guys, your wishes were to have them removed at between $6,000 and $7,000 a piece.
I think it would be just good to wait until you got some time, or put it on a schedule and you got a little bit of time to do it. I would think, and that's what we did on Madison Avenue, correct?
Correct.
I would think that would be
Do what?
wait until the town crew has time to do that. I mean, we got quite a list here, so I mean, it's probably not gonna be this year, but it would be.
There is quite a list, and there's the other sidewalk up Park Street on the opposite side of the road. There's this little piece down on Western Ave past Vaughn Street.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, there's a couple around town, but there again, could be this fall, could be next spring, could be. I mean, they're not a priority for the highway department. They never have been. They've been that way for 40 some odd years. And but if that's your wishes of the board, I will put it on the list up to the garage and work on them when we get a week or so.
Is that okay? I mean, we wanna spend money to hire somebody to go do it.
So
To go.
what you're trying to say now is you're going to take and just dig them up and just seed them and leave them?
That's what we did on Madison Avenue, Bob. We went down the opposite side of the street where the sidewalk is now and excavated the pavement out and put some loam in there and seeded and mulched it.
And I know up farther up Western Avenue, the sidewalk, and then you have some grass on the other side of it. So sidewalks out like in the middle.
Right, and that's what he's talking about.
So if you did those up and you leave it the way it is, so where are the people gonna walk in the road?
We wouldn't touch anything from Vaughn Street all the way to the town office. That sidewalk will remain. There's a little
Right.
piece north of Vaughn Street that goes up to, I believe, Low Street.
Mm.
That's not like what you see in the pictures
Yeah,
here.
just about like that.
I kinda like the idea, what you mentioned earlier, on making it a little bit wider on one side, so people can paint the line, so people can walk on that one side. They get used to doing it in the summertime, and then if you can just keep it, sort of push it. I don't know how you're gonna do it in the wintertime, unless you take the bucket and go down that street. You know, the side streets like Willie Mill.
I wouldn't recommend doing on that street, because then you'll have more cost entitled, because then you'd have to dig up the side of the road, gravel it, then pave it. You're just talking another expense.
Yeah.
If we do anything this year, do we have money to do any of this?
I don't believe we
When
would.
the budget's already been done?
It's already been done, and if we was to do anything, we would have to take it out of our sidewalk account, which I do not recommend, because as stated before, I would like to see that money put into sidewalks that are regularly used, such in front of Madison paper. That's getting very, very broken up and in need of repair.
Yeah.
And that gets a lot more traffic than Middle Street and Holton Street.
Yeah, I hear you, yeah, yeah.
But I do think in the long run, though, we need to clean these up to either get rid of them or fix them. I mean, I don't, so I mean, I think if we take some time to do it, it's fine, but I don't want it on the, way at the end of the line. So,
Yeah, if they dug it up and put dirt down and seeded it, and then people aren't gonna walk on their lawn, they're gonna walk in the road, right?
right.
That,
And everybody on that side of Western Avenue walks on the road. I mean, everybody I see walks on the road. I do. I mean, when I'm dragged out to walk, so so I mean, they're not gonna walk on that. Nobody walks on the sidewalk now. I mean, just at least get it cleaned up so it looks halfway decent when you get time.
I'll put them on the list, and no guarantees.
We're not asking for any.
Lee Graham just turn it to grass and right.
Yeah.
And I believe that's all I have.
Thank you. Number 2, sign school budget warrant for referendum.
So this is part of the state law that says you have to take a motion in a public meeting to put the school budget on the referendum. Many of you have already signed the many documents that Kathy needs, so we just need a motion to that effect.
Make that motion. Second.
All right, motion and second to approve the school budget warrant for referendum. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Did I sign those?
You have not.
Can I?
They're coming your way.
All right. All right, number 3, discuss town meeting warrant articles.
So in your packet, you should see a copy of the town meeting warrant draft. And I went through it today. I made a couple of edits. In the second paragraph, I want to make sure people know to come to vote here at this building rather than the municipal building. That's where voting will take place. Most of the budget articles have already been approved by the board and the Budget Advisory Committee. So that takes you through all of the articles through 17 and 18. And I just wanted to draw your attention to a couple of articles. Article 19, we've done this for a couple of years. It simply gives the townspeople the ability to pass through the snowmobile excise tax refund to the snowmobile club in town. Used to be we put that on in the budget, and then there was money in, money out. But I noticed other towns just simply pass it through. It's about $1,800 that gets passed through from the state to us, to the snowmobile club. Next page, Article 21. Article 21 is what sets the interest rate for what you charge for unpaid taxes once they're past due. The state sets the maximum, and the maximum this year is 6%. That corresponds with Article 27. In Article 27, you have to fix the rate 4 points lower to what you pay in the case of an abatement or overpayment of taxes. So if the maximum is 6, the maximum you pay for an abatement or overpayment is 2%. Right above that in Article 26, I wanted to note that I added in some language. This is the typical article that says the town manager is authorized to apply for and expend grant monies. I added in language that specifically included the COVID relief program known as the American Rescue Plan. So this way it will allow us to have town meeting authority to spend those funds as the board sees fit. And then the last 4 are simply ordinance changes. We've talked about site review, graveyards, automobile graveyards and junkyards, vehicles and parking. That pertains to the library, to put 100 feet from Old Point at 60-minute parking. And then Article 32 is the ordinance prohibiting meal exchange programs. So that is the warrant as presented.
We haven't taken a vote on this last one, right?
No, you had a public hearing at the last meeting, but you didn't take a vote on it, so
We need to do that today.
that's correct. You can take a vote on it specifically, or you could simply vote to pass the warrant as presented.
All right, what's our pleasure? We're looking at Article number 19 through 32. Or we can say 19 to 31 and talk about 32. Everything else has been approved.
I make a motion, we go from Article 19 to Article 32. As read.
Second.
All right, the only thing I'm gonna say is I'm not gonna vote for Article 32, so I'll vote no. I don't see banning, I don't think the elimination of the program is the way to go, so.
I agree.
So we have a motion to approve Article 19 to 32. Any other questions? And a second, excuse me. All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? All right, opposed? All right, we have a 3-2 vote.
So the article will appear on the town meeting warrant with a selectmen recommend 3-2. So we'll prepare the audience that's there with information ahead of time. And obviously you'll have your opportunities to speak to that one way or the other during town meeting.
All right, number 4, discuss building violations, 20 Park Street.
I just wanted to let the board know, and talk about this publicly. The process for property maintenance enforcement, we have an ordinance, and that falls to the code enforcement officer or their designee. So in our system right now, where we have Leo Mayo doing all of the building permits, plumbing permits, inspections, that sort of thing, I try to take any of these property maintenance issues off his plate and handle them myself. 20 Park Street has been a mess for several years. He's received notices from us for a couple of years, and we were right at the point where we were going to take him to court to get a judge's order. And what we can do in our ordinance is we can get a judge's order that allows us to hire someone to clean up the property to our specifications, and then we can charge them for that person's time. If they don't pay, it can be added to their tax bill as a supplemental tax. We've done this successfully on one other occasion, actually 2 other occasions. In this one in particular, you run into the sticky issue of the law. The person that is responsible for this property is not on the deed for this property. In fact, the deed was written in such a way, it's to all heirs of Alice Shaw, which at last count was about 25 people. So this is the same, similar situation to if you've ever driven up Preble Avenue as you head towards the ballparks and you see that little old broken down house right up on top of the hill. That's the heirs of December Bauer. And again, there's about 30 people that you have to give notice to if you want to do anything with that property. So this is kind of a hitch in the system. If you can't give proper legal notice, you can't get it before a judge, and you can't get a judge's order. Now, in this particular case on Park Street, things are working fairly well. The person's been pretty responsible. We're staying on top of them and getting it cleaned up to a certain degree. So I just want to let you know that whenever you run into situations like this, sometimes you kind of have to pull back on the legal and just kind of stay on them as much as you can to get it done. The other one I wanted to bring up is 24 Heald Street, and if you look at the pictures, this is the Greenleaf property. Mrs. Greenleaf died in 2018. Before she did, she deeded it to her son. The one son is the only son on the deed. He's no longer living there, and it's taken me quite a bit of activity to track him down. He's really not in a situation, because of some medical issues and some financial issues, he's not in a situation that's really good for him at this point. And what I'm trying to figure out is, what's the least we can do? Is there a way I can send him a notice that says, we'd like access to his property to at least board over that gaping hole that's right on Heald Street into the property? Depending on his situation, I've talked to a couple of other people that buy these types of homes and tear them down or fix them up, and I've tried to give them this person's information. I have a phone number and I have an address, but I've never heard back from him. So maybe somebody will get in touch with him and offer to buy it. That would certainly help his situation out. The other thing is, it will come up for tax foreclosure in February of '22 if none of the taxes are paid. Through the hearsay, I've heard that he's just gonna let it go back to the town. So what do you think as a board our next step should be? And maybe some free code enforcement advice.
It's a savage.
Sorry.
Have you been able to actually talk to him? I mean,
No, I've talked to his brother, but his brother's not on the meeting. So.
a similar building, I mean, I went through the dangerous building hearing, and we didn't want to absorb the cost because there's two financial institutions involved. The actual front of the building actually fell off, so we went through the dangerous building hearing. And in that, we just put in there, we wouldn't secure it to keep people out of it, and make it as safe as we can. We went through a hearing such as this, and as soon as it was signed off, we just went in and boarded it up.
Okay.
So you can do that with very limited cost, I mean, whatever it takes to fill this hole in.
Yep, and that's a process that we've done in the past, where we hold a public hearing about a dangerous building or an abandoned building, and sometimes we get the property owner to show up, sometimes we don't. But if we do the proper notice, and I do have an address where I could have him at least served. If we do the proper notice, at least we could kind of check the boxes, and I'd like to get something boarded up over that hole, because it is very dangerous, so. Does that sound good to the board?
Sound all right? Everybody good?
I think,
Mr. Moody?
I think we ought to follow up on that hearsay though, Tim, if he's has any intentions at all of letting this go back to the town.
Right.
I'd hate to see the town putting in too darn much money into this thing.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions on that? Okay, select board concerns. Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
Mr. Oaken?
None.
Swett? Savage? Citizens concerns? Seeing none, looking for a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter pursuant to 1 MRS 4056A.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session under 1 MR